All right, we are live.
The loudest podcast.
Mm,
Uh,
mm.
uh,
I don't know what the actual melody is that he does.
you're close, I
Good,
think.
good, good, good,
I
good, good.
I think I was rewatching. I was watching something on YouTube, I think, that was doing that scene with
Hmm.
like the written script, and it showed like how much Matthew McConaughey and that other guy, Leo, how
Yeah,
much they
who is
add.
that guy?
Who is that guy?
Who's that
How
guy?
much they ad libbed and kind
Hmm.
of made it their own. It's definitely
Yeah.
cool to see that. Here's just a thing about actors and
Hmm.
movies,
Hmm.
and this also plays into like, listen, this is my podcast. I can talk about what I want. I was also watching another video talking about Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's talking about how the original idea for Captain Jack Sparrow was he's a side character who's supposed to be like a funny, either funny slapstick or serious. And Johnny
Hmm.
Depp just said, "I'm not doing that," and took it in a completely different direction, which
Yeah,
we all know is emulating Keith Richards, and it obviously made the entire film. The
yeah.
point being, do not do not underestimate the value of actors that they
But there
bring
was
to.
definitely a period where there was this crazy fetishization of improv where it felt like every movie, like in the interviews, the press tours, the actors would be like, actually, we do a lot of improv on this show or on this set. We'll get an outline, but then a lot of it, we're just riffing. You know what I mean? Like, we'll do this scene as written, but then we'll do one where we're just doing our thing. You know what I mean? And I think most of
Yeah,
it was bullshit, you know?
we call that the Judd Apatow effect.
Exact. Yeah. 100%. 100%.
And to anybody so
Hmm.
curious about my background, I am in a new office space. My girlfriend and I swapped offices. We did wife swap with our offices. So I'm still
They like to
figuring it
swap,
out. And
you
in
know?
case you're wondering, right now it is 90.5 degrees Fahrenheit.
It's a
I
subtropical vibe out here.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I
It's
don't
like
there,
he's living in Lurlin Village out here.
guys. There is only a what do you call it? A skylight. There's
Hmm.
nowhere for me to put an AC. Um, I mean, it's 90 degrees. It's 90 degrees inside.
Just put it in the roof. It'll stay up there. It won't
I
fall on directly on your head.
I wouldn't even know how. Um, so welcome to the Bias Cut. It's a
Yeah.
podcast
What
that
is this? Where are we?
usually talks about fashion.
Hmm.
I'm Christian, your main host. Killian is like my
He's
goofy. He was goofy, either
yeah.
silly slapstick Jar Jar Binks type,
Hmm.
or
No, I'm really more of
overly.
a Joseph Gordon-Levitt to your Christian Bale.
I'll take
And
that.
at the end, at the very last episode of this podcast, we're
You're
gonna
like,
set me up for my own series that's never going to happen.
hey, yeah, and we're gonna find out your first name,
Yeah, yeah.
Rick Owens.
Ricky.
Just Rick Owens is one name, and it's like, oh my god,
It's him.
it was him all along.
Uh,
Hey everybody! Hey
hey.
Christian in the comments, he said he liked my tie dye shirt.
Oh, I thought you were just saying hi to yourself.
No, it's from Cowboy Bebop.
Is this like a Vlogbrothers type thing where you're just talking to your own YouTube channel, like, hi Christian, and then the next
Yeah,
day you
yeah,
wear a video, it's like, hey Christian. So
yeah, and this is the one where I tell everyone I have cancer.
right.
Yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, and guess what? I wrote all those John Green books too. Damn.
Listen, Hank Green's the real one here.
You see?
Today we are talking about the iconic, controversial fashion brand Vitamins. Playing the Vitamin song.
That's right. We're talking about VETEMENTS, aka VETEMENTS, the Georgian turned French, the fashion label that in the mid 2010s set the world of fashion on fire. For
And
real, for real.
how did we land on talking about Vetements? Why not some other brand? Set the tone.
Because hold on, I gotta get my. Sorry, guys. If you're just listening to this, we're gonna edit this out in post, even though this is a live stream. But I just want to make sure I'm getting my note right.
He's got to get the key.
Because if you guys are curious, you should follow me on Instagram. It's at Christian_Shibetta. That's SCIBETTA. And I do a poll whenever we do our episode the day before. And I want to get your guys' input on what brand we'll talk about. And if I ever figure out my office, figure out my life, figure out my job, figure out my X, Y, and Z, hopefully we'll start like putting those polls out further and expanding. But we want to get your input. So the fans decided.
The people have spoken. They want to hear about Big Daddy V, Vetements.
Amen.
So let's set the stage here. Let's talk about let's start from square one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Vetements, it sounds like a real hoity-toity French kind of name. Not in my country, you know.
No, yeah, not my president.
People have spoken. We got to talk about them. But I know it sounds very hoity-toity. Vetements actually just means clothing.
Mm-hmm.
You had no idea, did you?
It just translates to clothing in French.
Right.
That's the only reason I've ever been able to know how it's pronounced, because it's just a normal word. Otherwise, it would be VETEMENTS.
And it's actually
that's kind of weird.
Fantastic brand name, because it says a hell of a lot about the like ethos of the brand and what they were all about, at least when they started.
Yeah.
But the brand was started by a pair of Georgian brothers, not America, Georgia, right? You're
not America, Georgia, dumbass.
Georgia, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was the two brothers, and they had kind of like a collective of collaborators around them. But the figureheads, right, are the two brothers. One of them is Demna Visalia. The other is Guram Visalia.
The artist formerly known as Demna Visalia.
Formerly, right? He dropped the Visalia. And I don't know if it's a coincidence that the one with the more accessible and less Middle Eastern sounding name became the more successful one.
His words, not mine.
A little bit of edge to start off the podcast.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit more, because the story, at least as far until recently, the story was, to my understanding, mostly revolving around this little guy named Demna. What's his background?
So he started off, he went to the Antwerp, what's the full name of the school? The Royal something.
Royal Academy?
Yeah, just this little school that nobody else other than Demna has come out of. That's not true. The Antwerp Six, iconic fashion designers.
Everybody goes there.
So he had this big pedigree. He goes off to Maison Martin Margiela. He hones his trade over there, learns a lot about like deconstructive fashion, things like that. Then he heads over to a little brand called Louis Vuitton. And finally, he leaves to start up his own brand, Vetements, with his brother Guram. So he has a lot of fashion experience under his belt by this point, and a lot of kind of behind the scenes cred built up. So that, I would say, makes it almost all the more interesting that the brand he started was kind of designed to tear it all down.
Yeah, this could be one of those false memories, but I remember like reading an interview of Demna or in the early days, and him having basically a sentiment that working in fashion, like working in the industry, he didn't see the opportunity or the outlet for something that was truly creative or like really kind of focused on the art over product. And that was like why he started Vetements. And I want Killian to lead because, eventually we have to do the spinoff where he has his own show. So
I'm in training.
But the kind of the middle 2010s when Vetements really came onto the scene, it was, for anybody who wasn't alive, who doesn't remember, it was a kind of a big major brand. It made huge waves in the fashion industry, primarily because this is kind of like when streetwear was really coming into its own, and this brand really kind of it played into so many ideas that were very compelling for somebody who was super interested in fashion, and very off-putting or crazy or completely inaccessible to people outside of fashion, because these were pieces that looked like normal but uglier to like a normal person, and it was like the absurdity was there from the jump. And I think that the name Vetements, clothes, plays into a lot of it. I think that the ethos of Vetements, especially in the early years, was Demna kind of pulling from both his childhood and from all these kind of inspirations and aesthetics that he felt like made up just regular ass clothing in Europe, and then taking it and basically applying his experiences at Margiela to build these really interestingly constructed garments.
I think that's exactly right. I think there's kind of two sides to it that mesh together into a pretty cohesive whole, which is that on the one side, you have this very like Eastern European, harsh, brutal kind of stuff, like this Polizei thing. It's very, or like the hard shoulders on a piece like this, the May the Bridges I Burn Light the Way hoodie with these kind of football padded shoulders. You've got this very harsh side of things. And then you have this ironic side of things, which I'm sure we'll get into more later, where it's just sending up and deconstructing the entire idea of luxury fashion. And this brand, they brought in an entire kind of wave of, I think they were calling it like post-Soviet fashion. Of course, you've got guys like Gosha Rubchinsky, who walked the runway for one of Vetements' most like grail type pieces, the DHL t-shirt, which I believe is right there.
So for anybody just listening, we put graphics on the screen when we are doing this on YouTube. So be sure to check out the live streams here. But we just saw designer Gosha Rubinsky walk down the runway in a what looks like just a regular DHL shirt.
Yeah.
And it is basically, right? I mean,
absolutely. That's all it is. And I think that's like the idea of putting on a quote unquote luxury runway, literally a DHL t-shirt, or like a, you know, a finer constructed material, whatever version of that. And it is begging the question, which was an innovative question at the time, of like, what is luxury fashion, right? Does this DHL t-shirt qualify as a piece of luxury clothing?
Yeah, and this definitely was a question that was super compelling, more compelling to enthusiasts, like when Demna or when Vetements first came on the scene, because like the whole streetwear question was still basically being sussed out,
decided like in real time, right?
It was real time strategy, where this was a time long ago when people were trying to discern whether or not you would spend hundreds of dollars on a hoodie or on sneakers or any of that stuff, when previously that was seen as psycho. And I think that part of what made Vetements compelling to enthusiasts was the fact that it was really the oddity of constructions, that it was leaning into like this kind of question or gray area of like where do these clothes belong in these contexts? And kind of more than that, just the fact that it was you had to be in the know to understand it. It wasn't. This was before people could even begin to grasp that such a thing would, like, these clothes would exist. Because I remember headlines being like, "This hoodie is ugly and it costs too much." And obviously, like, while Demna's been at Balenciaga, he still played to that a lot. But it was like, that was one of the major impacts of it. I think that we can also talk about kind of like what the critics say and like what the criticisms were. And I think one of them was like, this just seems like a friggin' expensive joke. You know, like, are these clothes beautiful or good or wearable? Do people want to wear them? or is it just worn by like rich brats and people who are spending far too much money on things that are essentially ugly clothing?
Yeah, let me maybe bring up some examples. I literally just searched Vetements t-shirt because pretty much all of their t-shirts are in this sort of realm of design where stop
Ugliness.
copying me. You're not even doing it right. Just be jealous. Call me Vetements or Angel, right? Like all of this, and you can see the retail prices on this stuff ranging, from $350 to $700. And I think for a lot of people, they were asking, is this brand making fun of me? Is this an
Yeah.
entire send up or a way to rip off luxury fashion fans by trying to pass something that is super dumb off as actually really cool in order to just suck money out of them, essentially?
And the question still remains. We do not know.
We
But
do
I,
not.
I think that, and I've said this in a past episode when we were talking about kind of Demna as a designer and whether or not we respect him or hate him. And I have said that for me personally, it was when he started working at Balenciaga, when he took over, where I started to truly appreciate him and kind of value him as what I think one of the best designers of kind of our generation.
Yeah.
And that was primarily because within the confines of Balenciaga, he took so much of his design sentimentality and applied it into like a more traditional and kind of codified house. And that forced less jokes to get through and more like just more and more kind of compelling silhouettes and design and structure. And that's when I really started to like him. But the ultimately, it still begs the question of like, but there are so many pieces that are iconic and were maybe even more experimental from Vetements. And before we started like the stream, I was talking about like the two-sided hoodie. I think is one of those pieces that I think is like an iconic Vetements rail.
Let's see here.
Jamie, pull that up.
Boom.
This one. So it's like on screen, we're looking at a black hoodie that says Vetements basically on both sides. And one side is like a fake champion. The other side's kind of like a heavy metal kind of logo. But they played far further into that in the future. But what was kind of interesting about this hoodie is it literally could be worn both ways. There was like a hole. There were like two neck holes in a way. So you could flip it, wear it one way, flip it, wear it the other way. And there's something kind of really cool about how these pieces were designed, as well as, other stuff that people like.
And I'm trying to find an example. The internet just like isn't playing nice with me, but I think, and this is an issue that Demna has had at Balenciaga as well, but I think it was maybe even more so with Vetements, is that the whole rigmarole around the ironic or kind of tongue-in-cheek stuff overwhelms the more actual like garment making side of it. Because even I think if you go back to the earliest Vetements collections, there are like legit pieces dropped in key moments in all of it where you just realize like, oh, that's a really well-made piece of clothing with a really interesting design right there. And those things are often kind of left on the back burner as people focus on the more in-your-face elements of anything that Demna's worked on.
Yeah. And I think that is definitely a criticism, and it's probably like what a lot of people were thinking at the time. And I keep going back to the time 2016-ish, because that's definitely like that's when Vetements was like the brand that everybody was talking about.
Yeah.
And to its credit, we talk a lot about a lot of brands on this show, but few brands are as capable to break onto the scene and really occupy the consciousness of like the fashion community in the way that Vetements did. And almost certainly kind of changed the calculus for a lot of brands in terms of kind of like what would be compelling and what would be successful financially.
For sure.
Because this was essentially like an art house type of brand that was killing it.
We've got a chat message that says, it was so insane being there when they took off. In hindsight, it was such a special moment. It's funny how you never realize it while it's happening. And I think that's absolutely true and important to recognize that this was an independent brand that seemingly overnight, they had like legit stockists. Like they were everywhere. They
Yes.
were selling clothes for retail price at the same prices as a lot of the biggest luxury brands out of essentially nowhere. Like Demna had pedigree within the scene, but this was not a brand that was being like propped up by anything else necessarily.
And you know, you make a good point because it did kind of come out of nowhere and sell really well. And slash you know, he something that he mentioned that we were talking about a moment ago was like VETEMENTS was definitely in the consciousness, like kind of with repeated shows, and it has not been the bantied about brand for a while.
Right.
And there are designers that kind of ebb and flow. There are designers that have a better job, I guess, of kind of maintaining not just kind of attention on them, but like their fan base. And, you know, I would call basically any of the Japanese avant-garde designers, you know, Tricky Rick, Eddie, Slim Man, the certain design, or like Raph. There are designers who kind of, there's always kind of a conversation around them. VETEMENTS has been less discussed. And there's obviously an elephant in the room being that Demna stepped down from the brand.
That's what I was just about to say. Yeah, I think we kind of hinted at it, but there's a clear delineation mark, I think, at least in terms of their presence of while they had Demna there and after he left. Because what happened, I don't know if he ever really talked about it, but I think it's pretty obvious that what happened is he decided, I'm going to focus all my efforts on Balenciaga. You were frozen on my screen. So if I've disconnected, I'm so sorry.
I don't think you are, but if you were, you know, that's kind of cool for the podcast. We'll see.
I can hear you. That's interesting. All right. Well, so he leaves to focus on Balenciaga, and his brother Guram takes over the endeavor basically in its entirety. He's overseeing the entire thing now. And I think that's the clear point where the public interest slipped off, you know? And I think that was like 2019-ish, 2020.
Yeah, I think that's at least when I think that probably happened. I think the other thing that we can talk about is, here I am, guys. I don't know. I guess let me know in the comments if I am alone right now. And it's Killian is gone. This is live podcasting. This is what happens. And we don't edit these episodes, so this is all you get. But anyway, I'll just keep talking about VETEMENTS and we'll figure it out. Another problem that I have with this kind of setup is I use my phone as my camera here. So if Killian's trying to text me, I don't know. So one of the other things that I wanted to talk about kind of in terms of like VETEMENTS falling off and whether or not it's still like relevant is all of the controversy surrounding Demna as of late. And those are kind of like two-pronged. And I think some of it is potentially his relationship with the artist formerly known as Kanye West, who Demna has worked pretty closely with on a regular basis. And Kanye recently came out as a Nazi, and you don't necessarily want to be associated with them. And the other part was for anybody who's unfamiliar, there was, what was it, last year, 2 years ago, a kind of niche campaign that Balenciaga had that seemed to be promoting child pornography that blew up in the news. And there was a whole controversy about whether or not it was deliberate, the way they did it. You can look it up yourself if you don't know about it. But the long and short of it is that made people question Demna and whether or not he's a cool guy or not. Though at least the last time I read about it, he explicitly said that it was a mistake that was never deliberate. But some people think that that was a part of the edgy marketing.
Testing.
Gillian?
1, 2, 3.
Hey, buddy.
Can you hear and see me okay?
I can hear you. I can see you quasi. But I
I
keeping
think my laptop overheated. I'm on a backup laptop right now. It just shut down.
Whoa!
It's crazy hot. Yeah.
Dang. I'm sorry to hear that, dude. Your laptop overheated? We're reaching 92 degrees.
Well, you forget that I'm
room I'm in.
only like an hour north of you, so
Yeah, but big city,
here.
big city, big heat.
Right. I forgot. Right.
So I'll catch you up because
Please.
once again, I'm carrying an entire podcast on my back, and boy, are my arms tired.
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying, so among the things that maybe have led to VETMENTS kind of losing kind of the capacity to captivate people is Demna potentially being soured because of his relationship to the artist formerly known as Kanye West, and Demna being soured because of the controversial child pornography ad campaign. And I think those the two things play into it, and to kind of build and finish and pass the ball. I think that there is also a component of VETMENTS. When it hit the scene, it was super novel. Even if half of people were like, "This is stupid," it was novel nonetheless. And I think there might be a level of people feeling like this kind of overly ironic, expensive brand thing is old hat. And I wonder if that paints kind of an interest or an appreciation of VETMENTS at this point.
Right. And I think, you know what now this is making me want to know? I want to know what ChatGPT thinks. We always ask our old friend Chat what they think about the designer that we're talking about. And I think this is the perfect time. Like, what does ChatGPT find unique about VETMENTS, right?
Okay. The brand VETMENTS. Please set it up for us.
I am just curious. I think there are legitimately a lot of directions you could go in to say what sets VETMENTS apart. And I want to know what our AI overlords think. So hit me.
Yeah, because so here's a repeating segment in the podcast, and we do it primarily because it's a good tool and not just to be trendy. But we ask Chat GDP, gross domestic product, to give us kind of a nuanced understanding of whatever brand or designer we're looking at. And sometimes it spits out, parroting some interesting ideas. So I asked it, what are the best qualities of the brand VETEMENTS? It says VETMENTS is a fashion brand known for its unconventional approach and disruptive designs. While opinions on what constitutes the best qualities of a brand can vary, it says, here's kind of the list it gives me. Unique aesthetic. It challenges traditional fashion norms. Features oversized silhouettes, deconstructed elements, and unexpected combinations. Creative direction. VETMENTS is renowned for its creative direction, led by designer Demna. So this is incorrect.
They're reaching backwards, right?
Yeah.
Even they know that that's when it was at its most creative, right?
Yes, even the computer knows. Influential streetwear, it says. VETMENTS played a significant role in blurring the lines between luxury fashion and streetwear. I would agree with that. I think we were just talking about it. Collaborative approach.
Yeah. I mean, they were known. They were early collab boys. You know what I mean? I think DHL wasn't a collab, but they did end up circling back to doing an actual collab.
They've collaborated with Reebok, and they've collaborated with Levi's. They have collaborated with those brands, but I would argue with the computer about this. I don't think it's compelling in the same way that, say, the way that Supreme does collabs. These are almost like collabs where it's like, hey, I wanted to take a pair of 501s and stitch 1,000 of them together.
Yeah.
And the point is more or less taking kind of a generic garment and freaking it. And I don't know. I don't know if it's really about like taking the two essences of those brands. I think it's more or
Right.
less about what Vetements does, which is exploring strangeness in the pedestrian.
Yeah.
Other than that, the computer says attention to detail. Okay. And cultural relevance. Well, I'm going to take off points for that one. Cultural relevance. What makes this compelling? Its relevance.
It's relevant. Right.
Yeah, it says Vetements managed to capture the spirit of the times and resonate with the younger, fashion-forward audience. I mean, I guess this is what we have been talking about. It was very relevant, but I want to know why.
It's not totally up to date though. It feels a little bit like behind. That's like the argument you would have made like 3 years ago, I feel like.
Yeah.
Hold on, give me 2 seconds. I'm swapping.
Well, gang, once again, I'm here alone. This podcast is full of surprises. Hey, buddy. Hi.
Hey. Got a
All right.
mic over here. Hey.
So at this point, we've talked about basically how Vetements began. And I encourage anybody to kind of like look around, try to look at some of if you are unfamiliar with this era or you weren't paying attention to fashion at the time, just start Googling like early Vetements runway shows and try to put yourself in the space of a person in a fashion world where you're just starting to like kind of everyone appreciate that like streetwear could be expensive and all these things. So you try to imagine you were there, you'll get the idea. And we've also talked about the now times, which is Vetements has really kind of lost at least attention.
Yeah.
And do you own any Vetements pieces, Kelly?
I do.
Which ones? Whoa! He's wearing one!
Super long sleeve Titanic coming soon hoodie.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. That's like one of the iconic ones to me. And I also have like
wear that on your trip.
Alpha Industries collab bomber. That's like 2 bombers put like stitched together, so it's like super extra wide.
Oh, that's cool.
It's a massive fan of the Vetements pieces that I do have.
I love that for you, dude. I love.
What about you? You got any VT?
Maybe I'll just say this. A friend had a model boyfriend who collected Vetements. And this was around 2016. And the pieces seemed cool.
Yeah.
But, you know, he was whatever. The only good thing that guy ever did was one time we were having a conversation and he was a professional and he's asked me in a way that felt to me at the time earnest. He earnestly asked me, have you ever considered modeling?
Oh.
Me?
Listen, I mean, why wouldn't he ask that?
Because I was usually the conversations were like this. I was like, oh yeah, well, I don't know. And he you know, those people are hot. There's no question about it.
Right.
So
yeah, no, I mean that doesn't like super surprise me. I don't necessarily see Vetements fitting with your personal aesthetic all that much. Yerp. I think it's like very, very much up my alley, like that kind of like metalhead, kind of like dark black type aesthetic, but with still like some design elements that you can hang your hat on. I think that sums up what I'm looking for pretty well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Teenage dirtbag shib.
Yeah.
So
great karaoke song.
Yeah, a go-to for some. If there are kind of 2 things that have happened in recent Vetements history.
Yes.
The one being Dema kind of relinquishing his creative director role at the name of the brand and his brother taking over. And the other one is VETEMENTS, the diffusion line.
Yes. One moment. I've got to share my screen once again. We lost it.
Okay.
All right.
So
So this is not VETEMENTS, okay, you guys? This is VETEMENTS.
basically, take the word VETEMENTS and remove all the vowels, and that
Mhm.
is the diffusion line that started, I want to say maybe 2 years ago, tops.
Yeah.
And
I think
you
they've
can,
got maybe like 3 or 4 collections under their belt.
and Killian and I were chatting about it prior to the pod launching off into the stratosphere. And
Mhm.
at least like I remember reading about it in like Women's Wear Daily or whatever.
Mhm.
And my understanding, or what I think the two of us thought about it was Vetements with no vowels was
Mhm.
to be a diffusion line, hypothetically cheaper products. But that does not seem to be the case.
No, no, no. Like, let me
Uh,
just bring up just to give you an idea. ETMNTS. So a leather pants going for about $2,000. We're not looking at like the real or whatever. I want like retail. A t-shirt, 450. Some boots, 1,200.
500. He
These are
said
very
50,
much
but it was 500.
VETEMENTS prices, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I guess like even without us like reading any kind of description of it, our assessment is that Vetements No Vowels, essentially what it is striving to be is kind of the dark shadow,
Yeah.
which also doesn't have vowels, the dark shadow type diffusion
Woo!
brand. In that it appears to be clothing that is hypothetically more wearable, more
Mhm.
streetwear, and more like your wardrobe.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of vêtements then and now can be very experimental and not necessarily wearable. But this is one of the new kind of things that has happened with the Vetements and Vetma and all of this whole brand is that now they have this diffusion line, no vowels.
Yeah.
Where does that fit in?
That's a fantastic question. I
Tell me.
don't really know. I don't think I like it. Like I get it, right? I get
Okay.
it. Dark Shadow has been maybe the most successful diffusion line in like luxury clothing history.
I
I
don't know.
I'm
That
sure
might be a
somebody can
bold
make an
statement.
argument of some others that would like stack up similarly,
I
but
mean,
I think
I
looking at Dark Shadow, you've
yeah,
got a very clear uh, case to follow, right? You've got the business case. You can be like, we can do that, and I don't know if it works at least from a design perspective. Like I'm not grabbed by the clothing. I could understand it if it was at a more accessible price point, like Vetmo really saying, this is your way in. Like you
yeah.
get in here, maybe it's like half as much as mainline, and eventually you trade up to being a mainline customer. Like that is a path that makes sense to me. But as it stands, I just don't really know if it works.
I mean, that's the rub, right? At the edge of the day, the
Mhm.
thing that every brand, all of these luxury brands, kind of have a priority or a prerogative to protect the allure
Right.
because that is where they make a lot of the money. And if people are like, oh, I wish I could afford it. Why is it so expensive? Yada yada yada.
Mhm.
Frankly, there are people crunching the numbers on these things, and like the starting price point will dictate kind of the success of a lot of the rest of the brands, whether it's
Mhm.
good or bad. That's the truth. It's not, it wouldn't just be as simple as I'll just sell for less money and nothing will happen. There is a clear effect if you sell clothes with your name at a much lower price,
Yeah.
it dilutes what people are willing to pay for everything. But
Right.
where is the fine line with that, and why would I say hypothetically? I'm looking at a link right now on Essence. It's a tuxedo T-shirt, like the one you would buy at Walmart.
Okay.
It's $400. Why would I do that? Why would I? Why? Oh, why would I go out of my way to say, yeah, I'm going to spend $400, not even on a Vetements T-shirt,
Right.
a women's T-shirt that is a tuxedo T-shirt.
Uh-oh.
I would call that person crazy. I would call him a
Right.
psycho. But the other part of it is, at least for me, like when we
Mhm.
were looking at VETMA and Vetemen, I don't even know what do we call the other one. I keep trying to call it Vetements.
I just go VTMNTS. It's so unwieldy, but I don't know what else to do.
Guys, let us know in the comments what you think we should call the
Great,
diffusion line.
please tell us.
The thing I was thinking was like when we were looking for our smash and pass, which is coming. It's another segment we do, and it's
Yeah.
coming. It was hard for me to find what the ones I wanted to smash because
Mhm.
to some extent I was looking for pieces that were reminiscent of the ones I remember from the Vetma Golden era,
Yeah.
which the stuff on sale right now aren't. But
Mhm.
the diffusion line at least feels more parallel to it. It feels more like that
Mhm.
era.
Interesting. I like the argument. I like it. I think so. Here's the interesting part.
Okay.
And it gets kind of hard because Vetmont, you can never tell what's PR or what's like a stunt and what's earnest. Like they're always blurring that line. But I remember maybe a couple months ago, them doing this big splash saying, uh, fashion, it's too expensive. Everyone spends all their money on
Right.
influencers and marketing. So what we're doing with VTMNTS, this diffusion line, is we're going to make it in the same factories, the same quality, but we're going to stop paying all this BS marketing and we're going to give it to you, you know, at a cheaper price and make it affordable.
What happened?
I don't know if that's an admission that like the positioning wasn't right to start, or if it's just another send up by this like super nihilistic brand conglomerate thing.
I mean, there is also the question is I always bring up this boring conversation. Well, maybe it's not boring. Maybe people like it. Where it's
You're
like
always interesting.
luxury brands, how do they make money? And the answer is through accessories. That's where
Yeah.
all their money comes from. And at least for Vetements, I think that it saw a lot of success early on because it made such a massive impact on social media and in the news, and it was able to sustain itself selling purely selling the garments. Like I'm trying to think, was there a hot because obviously when Demna took over Balenciaga, he had several hits of
Oh
like
yeah,
it bags and several hits of it shoes. So
big
they
time.
were cooking,
Yep.
and that's why Balenciaga did so well. But for
Yeah.
Vetements, it
Ooh.
felt like it was always the garments themselves that were kind of doing the numbers. I
I
don't know.
think uh they've got some juice with the like combat boots. I feel like that's something I've seen a lot of. Like there are these combat boots, they say like big Vetma across the back or front or something like that.
Yeah, I've seen them.
I think that they have a similar level of cachet to the Levi's with that just say like Vetma big print across the crotch or whatever.
Yeah, across your
So I
wiener.
think there's like something there, but definitely nothing to the level of what you would say is like a successful accessory strategy for a luxury brand.
Yeah, so I wonder because I mean, you guys crack open women's wear daily. You'll see that essentially the calculation is that if a luxury brand is going to sell their garments for hundreds or thousands of dollars, if they're going to put on runway shows, if they're going to do the whole how many ring circus, multiple ring circus thing, there has to be a strategy that is built around either fragrances, shoes, or bags.
Yeah,
And
I've got actually some crazy news for people.
what's
They
that?
might not expect this. It's really counterintuitive, but I don't know if you knew this, but Telfar do not make their money off their cut and sew t-shirts and sweatshirts.
We already know this.
Oh, you knew
We
that.
already
Oh,
know this.
shit. You knew
We
that their
can't keep
bag
getting
made them
away
all the
with
money.
it. That's true. So what the bug is the point of Vetmov diffusion?
I don't know, but let's try and answer because now you've got me really juiced up for smash and pass, because you said you had a hard time finding what you wanted to smash. I had a hard time actually deciding what to pass.
Wow.
So this has me all hopped up now. I'm ready to go. So
So in this segment, Smash or Pass, we do it every episode now.
Mhm.
We look at basically the brand that we're talking about, and we look at what is available to buy new on the internet from that brand, and we decide the pieces that we would have sex with and the pieces we would not have sex with.
Right.
And that is our kind of live assessment of the assortments.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's start it. Let's start this bad boy going.
So since you, I had the harder time with pass, we'll start with my smash. We'll ease into it, start easy. This is the one that I didn't have a ton of trouble with, right? So, and I think you're going to argue with me here, and I'm excited for it.
I can't wait.
Here is the piece from VETEMENTS that I want to smash. This is a distressed sweater, like crew neck, kind of in between a crew neck and a mock neck sweater. A lot of heavy distressing along the bottom, the cuffs and the hem. And then at both the front and back, you have this classic tongue-in-cheek VETEMENTS embroidery that says at the front, Jesus loves me. And I think it's at the back, Jesus loves you too. And this very like cutesy bubble letter type of thing. And I really like the juxtaposition of the thrashed sweater with the Jesus embroidery.
And this is kind of feels very iconically VETEMENTS. This is the kind of thing that lit the fashion world on fire because this graphic looks like something that came from from the evangelical South in the 90s, and you found it in in like a Goodwill.
Yeah, this is exactly what you would see in those memes where it's like the first frame is like, go to Goodwill. That's where they have the heat, is what everyone says. And then the next frame, they pull this off the rack, and it's like sad trombone, like.
Yeah, exactly. Killing, can you show me the on fig again? And it is what he described it. So if you guys are listening, you got to see. And what's the material?
I was just wondering that. I'm sure they say it somewhere here. Description. It is 100% wee.
100% wee.
What is wee? I have to imagine that's wool.
Yeah. Let's guess that it's wool. I don't despise that sweatshirt. I don't know. You thought I would.
I thought you weren't going to like it, but I'm glad you're with me here to some degree here. It is pure
100% wool. Yeah. I like, even if it's corny, I do really like that kind of distressing. I think it kind of looks cool. I think the silhouette of it is good. I mean, realistically, would I ever spend $2,000 on this? Not me.
God, no. No. Hell no.
Hell no. But I think it's cool. What did you have?
But this is like infinite money glitch, right?
Yeah.
In a perfect world, what are we buying? It's the Jesus sweater for me.
Yeah. Infinite money glitch.
You had a harder time with Smash.
Okay.
Well, I want to see your pass first. We're staying easy here, okay?
Sure. Click on my pass.
Let me pull up Christian's pass. We've got an Essence link here. I'm very excited.
Maybe I should.
I almost picked this. For my pass. Here we go. Tell us about it.
Bing, bing, bing. All right. We have a model in a black t-shirt, kind of iconic VETEMENTS oversized black cotton t-shirt with a oversized print that looks a little ugly or something. It's the anarchy symbol on this tee, a little off center.
It's an upside down anarchy symbol.
Here's my thing about it. I think for $700, I think wearing a shirt with the anarchy symbol on it, ironically or whatever the hell, is kind of yucky. It's kind of yucky. I mean, anybody who actually believes in anarchy is probably mental. Yeah. But I usually associate it with, I don't know, revolution, punk rock, something like that. And that feels distant from the reality of this t-shirt. And I
Yep.
just don't think this works for me.
Yeah, I think I almost picked this for my pass as well because it feels like the most base level of their tongue-in-cheek ironic designs. Like
Yeah.
they level up from here, and there are different levels of depth to it and different ways you can appreciate or not appreciate it. This one just kind of is. It's just there. It's kind of like either you're like, oh, that's really lame, or you're like, heh,
Eh,
the tiniest chuckle,
you did, but for $700, I'm gonna need a much bigger chuckle.
You need a much hardier chuckle than
Oh,
this.
a chortle. I need a
And
chortle.
okay,
So
here's
this
the
was my
thing.
pass.
Yeah, and this is another thing that I have, and this kind of opens up a bigger can of worms. But when you combine the $700 price with the Portugal thing,
Made in Portugal.
I
Uh,
think there is like a factory or set of factories in Portugal that make all of these t-shirts and hoodies for all of these brands.
yeah.
It it's tough. It's tough for me sometimes, you know?
Well, if you guys want to watch, I did that Rue Porter v. Hyder Ackerman
Yes.
video, and I made that assessment. I don't even know if it's a good bad, but I think that is a reality. Yes. What do you want to share? What you are passing on
Here's my
before we get to
pass. And
our
now
smash?
here's the thing. You may disagree with me here too. I could see you saying that you want to smash this just out of pure, ridiculous.
Spite.
Oh, hold on. It pulled up a
Oh.
thing trying to get me to log in with like my full name on it. Close that tab. Okay. All right, here we go. There's my pass. It is a like North Facey kind of puffer jacket with these little green man alien print things. Basically the type of thing that you see at like every head shop. Just
Mhm.
like that stereotypical alien head all over on this big puffer. What do you think?
Well, I don't know if it's because you set me up for it,
Mhm.
but I love Little Green Aliens.
Mhm.
I think it's funny, it's just an idea that I do really like.
Mhm.
Maybe I do want to smash this.
And this is
But
why I had so much trouble with the pass, because every single thing I found that I was like, yeah, that doesn't look good, I could still see why they
why?
made it. Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of a part of it. And that's a part of the thing is like definitely mid 2000s when Vetma was taking off, it was like all the simpletons who were like, that's not a suit and tie. Why would you
Mhm.
wear it? And everyone else who was like, I think it's very compelling
Mhm.
how they're taking what I imagine somebody growing up in Georgia in like the 80s. These are the influences, these are the aesthetics you would see. And I don't mean America, I mean the USSR. And then applying that to this like kind of galaxy mind, like
Yeah.
fashion construction. I understanding all of that, I'm like, okay, this is interesting
Right.
art.
Right.
And that is kind of the grain of salt for a lot of the Vetmont designs is like, is it ugly? But it's
Mhm.
also kind of like fun in how silly it is. Like this
Yeah.
is kind of fun in how
So,
silly it
and I think that's what I reverted to when I couldn't find anything. I was like, okay, I'm just going to accept that I understand what they're going for. I'm just going to pick the thing that I'm like, could never wear it. I just can't. You know what
is.
I
Okay.
mean? All right. So
Go
we
to
now
some of
get
my
into smash.
I have more than one link, so we should look at
Oh,
all of them.
okay. Here we go. Oh, here we go. We were kind of just talking about these, weren't we?
So I kind of when I was looking initially, I was kind of like, I don't really know what to pick.
Yep.
Because like, initially all the Vetma stuff was like not I couldn't have sex with it, you know?
Right. Right. Right.
So picked these
Mm-hmm.
simply because if I was doing the infinite money glitch, it would be great to have a new pair of Italian made leather combat boots with the front zip.
The front
But
zip is what does it. Yeah.
other than the front zip and kind of the combat ish stuff of it, I don't know if these are particularly very Vetements.
Right.
I don't know if these are for any reason better than, say, an Andy Meister, a
Mm-hmm.
Guidi, a Rick, or
Yeah.
any other Yoji, other people who do black boots like this.
Yeah.
Like maybe I would ultimately want those over this.
Yeah. I think the things that connect this to Vetements for me are like the police nature of it.
Uh-huh.
Like, I think they even call
And
them the
Demna
police
loves the
combat boots.
police.
So I think that element, and also just they have like a harsh starkness and darkness to them that
Darkness and darkness.
exactly. I think they fit in, but they also don't scream Vetements, you know?
No. Go to my
They're
other
good
ones.
boots.
They're good boots. Those will almost certainly be sexy boots.
I get it. I get it. Good pick. Good pick. All right. I want to see this other one.
Yeah, click them up. Click them up.
One more. One more. Here we go.
What did
Yeah.
I pick? What did I pick? Oh, so in case in point, and I guess I got all my links from Essence, but this is this
Yeah.
is the diffusion line.
And I
And
also love this piece.
I looked at this and I said, that takes something that feels very Vetements,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's pretty cool.
For
So
those
what we're looking
listening,
at on
yep.
screen, everybody listening, it's essentially a trucker like type 3 Levi's jacket in design. The top half and sleeves are black leather. The bottom half is washed like bleached denim. And the model shows that if you were psycho enough, you can
Yep.
take the bleached denim part off and just wear it as a cropped little sexy leather outfit. But I know, but Killian and I, unfortunately, both know better than to wear anything that sexy in leather on the internet, right? Because there are people who really like it. But just ultimately, the reason I said this is a smash for me is it is kind of hitting those Vetements things. This is it's like the ramming two pieces together in a way that feels a little more crude, deliberately crude than say Sakai would do. But it also feels very like tapped into kind of Americana, Americana by the USSR fashion sense. I think that this is like kind of a Vetements piece. The only thing I would ask for is maybe make it bigger. Just like
I feel, I would really like that. But I think that you make a great point that this absolutely looked like if you asked somebody like a European or someone who's never been to America to like design an American piece, and you're like, and you like put these in a blender, and this is what pops out, right?
Yeah, and then they end up making something that it's like Sacha Baron Cohen Bruno, where it ends up being a leather crop top jacket.
Right.
So it's like you didn't do. That's not America.
That's still very European, okay?
Yeah,
crop tops are not American.
But I thought that was a cool piece, so that's why I wanted to have sex with it. That's why it was a smash.
So we've reached pretty much the end of the show. But before we go real quick, I just want to make sure like Ao has been in here just popping off. Good thoughts, interesting thoughts. Guram, from what I hear, was uninterested in evolving the brand past streetwear, which is why Demna abandoned the company. Yeah, I mean,
tell me where'd you hear that from? Who told you? I mean,
who told you?
If Guram, let's just call him Guram. Does he have like a background in like business? Like I'm sure.
I think so.
I'm sure they're both very creative. You know, I don't know. I just feel like your brother, you're almost certainly kind of have like close knit energy with him. But I am kind of surprised by that because it's like they're not feuding, right? This isn't like there's no. I don't know. Maybe there is.
Not that I can tell. But I mean, it may be from a design perspective, what they're trying to do is maybe different. But I will say on that note, the most recent Vetements collection that I'm showing on screen right now is one of the best collections I think Vetements has ever done. Just taking their codes to the nth degree. Everything's just like a 16XL sized.
Yeah. What I said to Killy Billy about this collection was it feels a lot like Comme des Garçons mainline runway in that this is like an exploration of a lot of the Vetements things, but where wearability isn't even a question. It's all about kind of exploring design to extreme extent. And I really feel like this collection, more than like even what Demna is doing at Balenciaga, which still has to sell and need to be wearable and make sense. A lot of these pieces feel like this is like what Vetements is. It's like this a grotesque like contorting of what clothes are.
Exactly.
And we're flipping through these pictures, but you guys can like look up the spring summer 2024 to see what we're talking about. It's just there are a lot of garments that are warped beyond recognition, but shaped into this, bizarre, compelling silhouette. And I agree. There is something superb about this collection. The question is, why aren't people talking about it more? I don't know.
Sure. It's popping off. I've noticed a shift literally just in the past few days since this came out. I think there's a New York Times front page. I think not like front page, but like in the front page of like the style section or whatever.
Below the fold?
Yeah.
Okay.
Big story. So I think there's something happening there.
Maybe. I mean, that was on High Snobiety.
High Snob always got their finger on the pulse. Absolutely original content. Absolutely
original, never taking ideas from my videos. And that's why I'm not making videos right now, guys. I can't stand losing the thieves. I can't stand giving bad people good ideas.
We got a comment, not sure what the brand stands for these days, past clubwear.
I mean, admittedly, I kind of like one of the things that I first think of, and maybe it's just because the boyfriend of a friend I was just talking about, but when you say Vetements, I think like ketamine and like, we need to get you help. What are you doing?
Yes.
You know, like there has always been a component of it where it's like, it was like apparel for the people who like, say like a young rapper who was signed too early and the evil label gave him like $100,000 in bills and they went to spend it on something too expensive and audacious and stupid. And that's what you wear. You wear Vetements because it's expensive and it is a big middle finger. But does that make it just club clothes now? Because those are the types of people who go to clubs.
Right. All right. I think we made it. Thank you all so much for being here. It was
guys,
Vetements with you.
That was our Vetements episode. Killian has said we made it. Remember all the laughs we had. Remember all the jokes we made at Killian's expense when he was gone. And are we going to be back next week? I think.
Yes.
Just to let you guys know what our schedule is. I think the week of the 20th, we are off.
Yeah. We may do something. We might be able to move it around if we decide we want to do a different day that week. But the week of the 20th will be something weird in some way.
Something weird.
We will, I believe, be here next week, though.
But otherwise, for anybody who's watching live or watching post-live, be sure to check out at least my Instagram on Wednesday. That's when I'm going to post the poll, and that's how we decide what episode to do the video on.
Damn right.
So please check it out. And I would say that we would let you guys like decide or like help us decide, but you know what? Behind the scenes, I'll tell them. Killian, don't stop me. I'll tell them. We did an episode on not Gosha, on Watanabe.
Oh, Junya, yeah.
We both like, but we realized we didn't have juice to talk about him. I felt like we were kind of spinning our wheels because at least with Vetements, we had things to roast and unroast. But long story short, we need to make sure that the two of us have juice or we're not going anywhere. But anyway, that's the show. My name's Christian. You can find me at the Brave New Wear Show on YouTube or on Instagram at Christian_Shabetta, which is where I do the polls.
And I'm Killian. I'm Low Luxury here and Low Luxury Clothing on Instagram. I had to start a new Instagram because my last one got banned.
Oh, I can't wait to find out more about that.
Go to my channel if you want the video. Everyone out there want to hear about my Instagram. All right, that's the show. Thank you all for watching.
Check it out, guys. I'll see you later.
Bye.